This sea was discovered by Italian explorer exploring on behalf of the French, Giovanni da Verrazzano. We'll begin this story of his discovery in September of 1522. The surviving members of Ferdinand Magellan's crew had just returned to Spain, having just circumnavigated the globe. For France, the competition in trade with Spain as well as Portugal was becoming more urgent. French merchants and financiers urged King Francis I of France to send a voyage to find a quick passage to Asia. After the discovery of the Americas, every powerful country in Europe wanted to find a faster route to Asia, through or around the continents. In 1523, King Francis I asked Verrazzano to explore an area between Florida and Terra Nova, meaning Newfoundland, with the goal of finding a sea route to the Pacific Ocean. A few months later, Verrazzano and his 4 ships set sail due west for the Grand Banks of Terra Nova, the course chosen in part to avoid the Spanish and Portuguese. But a violent storm and rough seas caused the loss of 2 ships and damaged the remaining 2. They were forced to return to France. Repairs were completed in the final weeks of 1523, and the ships set sail again. Though under the control of rivals Spain and Portugal, this time the ships headed south toward calmer waters. One of the ships soon became damaged again, leaving just one, which continued on to North America. Verrazzano and his crew reached the area of Cape Fear on March 21st, and after a short stay, continued northward. And there it was, what Verrazzano had come for. In a letter to Francis I, Verrazzano wrote, "We found there an isthmus 1 mile wide and about 200 miles long, in which we could see the eastern sea from the ship, halfway between west and north. This is doubtless the one which goes around the tip of India, China, and Cathay. We sailed along this isthmus, hoping all the time to find some straight or real promontory where the land might end to the north, and we could reach those blessed shores of Cathay." Unfortunately, no one could sail right into this eastern sea, but at least it would be a short portage. Actually, off the coast of North Carolina's Outer Banks. What he saw was not an eastern sea, but what we call today Pamlico Sound. But Verrazzano continued his mission northward to look for another passage. He was the first European to sail into New York Bay. Today, a statue sits in his honor in Battery Park in Lower Manhattan. He discovered Cape Cod Bay, then followed the coast up to modern Maine, southeastern Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland. He then returned to France on the 8th of July, 1524, without finding a northwest passage, but believing only a narrow isthmus blocked their way. Verrazzano named the region that he explored Francesca, in honor of the French king. Geography. For example, though Delisle never published a map showing it, he had speculated the existence of the Sea of the West. Check out this map Buache made in 1756, which I think really highlights the type of geographer he was. This map uses a North Polar projection to better display a couple of his original ideas. Buache was the first geographer to survey a river basin, and suggested that a basin had topographical unity. Basins are shown on this map, each separated by mountain ranges, which provided routes for rivers to flow to the sea. Some of the ranges are real, while others are where Buache hypothesized they must be based off of known directional flow of rivers. These hypothetical mountain ranges included underwater ranges, which connected each continent. Buache called this land Terra Antarctique, where most maps outside of France were calling it Terra Australis. This French word, Antarctique, is where the name Antarctica came from, which means opposite to the Arctic. It can be traced back to Latin and Greek usage, but the French usage is ultimately what gave the continent its name. Had the continent been discovered sooner, it may have been named Australia, after Terra Australis. But respected British navigator and cartographer Matthew Flinders in 1814 wrote, "There is no probability that any other detached body of land of nearly equal extent will ever be found in a more southern latitude," and suggested the name Australia. By the time it became clear there actually was a large landmass further south than Australia, it was too late. And so the name Antarctica eventually stuck. The continent's shape is partially guesswork, but it is also largely based on real events. Voyages that sailed south pushed back the boundaries of Terra Australis, and discoveries and contacts created the highlighted borders, such as New Zealand, which was first contacted by Europeans in 1643 by Dutch explorer Abel Tasman on its western coast, and Amerigo Vespucci's discovery of new land here in 1503, though this one is disputed by scholars. But extremely important to this map, and where the inland sea theory derives from, is the 1738-39 expedition led by Jean-Baptiste Charles Bouvet de Lozier. Bouvet de Lozier was sent by the French India Company for the purpose of exploring the South Atlantic. He discovered and named Cape Circumcision. An inset of Cape Circumcision is drawn in the bottom right. However, it was foggy, and Bouvet de Lozier failed to see that it was actually an island. This island was eventually named for him in 1927. Bouvet de Lozier's journals mentioned icebergs, also depicted here, between 200 and 300 feet high and half a league to 2 or 3 leagues in circumference. Buache believed that icebergs of this size must have derived from a floating ice sheet. He hypothesized that there must be an inland sea that separated Terra Australis into two landmasses, with outlets on near opposite sides, both where icebergs had been spotted. Bouvet de Lozier's in 1738, and the second place where buccaneers named Sharp and Davis reported icebergs in 1687. On the map, the sea is described as a landlocked basin. The text goes on to say that the inland sea is fed by rivers as considerable as those of Siberia, which create the icebergs of the north. He called the sea Mer Glacial, or the Glacial Sea. The Glacial Sea died with Terra Australis soon after Cook sailed into the Antarctic zone. But it does make at least one appearance after Cook's second voyage was well known.